hand over to you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you for this. Mine is pretty short. It could never be levelled, but this is too long. And basically, I suppose I came into this with quite an open mind this evening, and then listening to two of the gentlemen sitting over there, and there's a total and utter lack of understanding of the environment. It's just misguided that you can put a hedge in and that is creating habitat for one species, but you're totally and utterly destroying an arable habitat. And so my resolution stands, but basically I just feel there needs a much greater understanding of the environment in everything that, in all this documentation. Thank you.
Heather, would you read the resolution out so that we... yeah.
Okay, the resolution is the LLF does not consider that option 6 has been presented in the document, has been fairly presented no, that's not the one, sorry. It is, the LLF considers that the environmental impacts of a park and ride on Madingley Hill and the offline 3A busway are being significantly underplayed in the documentation. We ask that these assessments are reanalysed with possible future impacts of future-proofing considered.
Can I just have a clarification of what you mean by the future impacts of future-proofing, so that the audience...
Well, it's largely, as I was saying, that currently the countryside provides habitat for certain species, and if the wishes of, I keep saying the City Deal, the Greater Cambridgeshire Partnership, those species will be lost, and so that's where I'm coming at, as was illustrated earlier.
Thank you. It's just that the word future-proofing is used differently in another question. Any comments from anybody on that? From the audience?
James BPF. It is no accident or coincidence that quite a lot of the route of the proposed alignment of 3A across Madingley Hill runs through land over which the National Trust holds covenants. Those covenants being specifically to preclude development and to confine the use of the land for agriculture. Now, the National Trust doesn't award or place covenants over land just haphazardly. It is only on land which is of extreme landscape significance. And I think that it is grossly underappreciated in the evaluation of the impacts, but the effect on this obviously highly valued landscape is actually being not given the prominence that it requires. So I would support the resolution, but I think that it would be more sensible if the resolutions 5 and 6, which are both asking for a re-evaluation of the criteria involving LLF technical group input, could be merged into a single one because they're covering basically the same subject.
Steve Jackson.
Steve Jackson, Madingley Road. I think it isn't the case that arable land has a high biodiversity. Some of the most high biodiversity in the UK is actually along railway lines. Anyway, so that is a fact. My view is that any of these routes will have environmental impacts. We're talking about thousands of other people coming into Cambridge And if you take it down option 1 or option 6, that will also have impacts in terms of emissions, also taking down trees along this historic route into Cambridge, which is a conservation area itself.
Thank you, Stephen, and then Tim wants to come back.
This does relate to the environmental impacts. We are heading into a consultation, and again, I reiterate Tim's objection to the point saying that there would be biodiversity enhancement. And I mean, we go back again to the comment made on the 1st of September by Chris Tunstall, where he said, this is Chris Tunstall now, listen Adrian, this is the Director of Transport who's supposed to be who basically signs off these documents. He said, quote, in the news, we took on board the concern about cutting the Westfields in two, and the new route sidestep it by running along the border, which is what I said was false. But let's look at that in environmental terms. The current proposals cut through a major hedgerow. If you walk along there, the hedgerow is 5-6 metres wide. It destroys the integrity of the hedgerow. It cuts through an area where there are hares. It then crosses the Bin Brook, which has a significant water vole population. It also, I would add, goes through a barn owl roosting area. There are badger sets there. I think it's deeply... we spent as a... You talk about engagement, Bridget. This is the first time tonight I'm starting to disagree with your view, because we got a team of 6 biologists, some of the leading people in and around Cambridge. We got some of the best people in the country, and they were very categoric. A road through this sensitive area will be utterly catastrophic. This stuff about arable fields, what is your subject? Because you obviously know nothing about ecology. Because arable fields, I'm afraid, mate, most of the top landscapes in the country have a mix of arable fields, and they have hedgerows and trees, etc. So you know nothing about ecology by suggesting that it's just arable fields.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm the University of Cambridge's Professor of Biology.
Well, I stand by my statement. Hold on. Your organisation, okay, is standing by, Cambridge University is standing by because you want to build houses over these fields, and this is a green lung, close on the edge of Cambridge. There is a river valley. You have these meetings with David Attenborough, people like that, to talk about all the contributions you're making to saving global habitats in places like Africa. I noticed, for example, the faculty of the zoology department complaining about a road scheme running out of a city in Zimbabwe. And yet you're sat here tonight advocating a road scheme through our own countryside.
I don't think we should get it.
I'm speaking on my personal view. I'm not speaking on behalf of the university. I'm on no university committees. I'm not party to any of the university's decisions on these kinds of matters. It's my personal view, and I should be allowed my personal view as you do, clearly.
Let's cool it a bit as well. Oh, sorry, Tim, final point.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't want to get in this language match. All I'd say is having walked the land, there's certain arable species that are under threat. The land in question harbours grey partridge, corn bunting, overwintering lapwing, brown hare and skylark. Creating the sort of semi-urban habitat will, I fully accept, create habitat for species that are already abundant. But the issue here is the species that are not abundant but live on the land. Thank you.
Just very briefly, yeah, very briefly.
I couldn't agree with you more that we should cool, the whole thing. But we're saying cool it by killing off this bad scheme. This is what we've been saying for years. Please cool the whole thing. It's no good.
That's fine. Okay.
Thank you. Actually, Robin, I don't agree with you on this one, actually. I think we're making a very different point in Resolution 5 about creating the best on-road alternative. So, actually, I think we should just vote on this resolution for now. to read it out again. The LLF considers that the environmental impacts of the park and ride on Madingley Hill and the offline 3A busway are significantly underplayed in the documentation. We ask that these assessments are reanalysed with possible future impacts of future-proofing considered. Any against? Abstentions? One abstention, 2 abstentions. Okay. Gabriel, have you got your thing up?
Yep. So I'm going to, I think, talk about Resolution 4 and Resolution 5. So I've got some slides which I think covers both really. Just well, you can see the resolution up on the screen. Actually, it's big enough you can read. We don't agree with the scoring of the enhanced MCAF, which we regard as illogical and biased in favour of option 3A. We were not invited to participate in the enhanced MCAF, as Helen has already said, and were not given anything like enough sensible time to make input into it. And it does raise concerns about the impartiality of the officers and the way in which their retained consultants are being briefed. So we are asking GCB to instruct officers to work with the LLF technical group over the next 6 months to prepare the final business case documentation for the 3 options under consideration and to conduct the next public consultation. I'm just going to try and project some slides.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a few words about the latest MCAF. But if at first you don't succeed, so this has not been a very happy project in some respects, unfortunately. We did agree on an initial set of criteria, as Helen said. It was then scored without our input. We objected and the scoring was markedly revised. The outcome of that scoring was, in fact, that option 1 scored the best and option 3 and 6 are more or less identical after the revision. But then we had a completely new MCAF produced, and it says in the documentation it was agreed, which is, I think, a little disingenuous because it implies that it was agreed with the LLF. That's how I think many people would read that, but it was not at all agreed. It was simply presented to us at the offices in Girton, and there was no agreement. It was just done unilaterally, and then it was scored unilaterally. Just want to take a quick step back because this relates to the Resolution 5, and just a reminder about what Option 6 is. So Option 6 arose from a question that was asked at the November 2016 Executive Board meeting, and that question asked whether the GCP, or CTDL as it was called then, would do an assessment of better online route options, because the option they considered, option 1, and that September assessment, was so poor. And the Executive Board agreed at that meeting to facilitate meetings with the transport officers to establish an optimal do minimum comparator. But that has not happened. We have not had meetings which have established an optimal do minimum comparator. We've had several meetings, but option 6 has still not been optimised with input from transport experts. So at the moment, it is at the level which local campaigners and amateurs have been able to get it, but it is not optimal. It is not as good as it could be in terms of journey time, reliability and modal shift. It is pretty good, but it is not as good as it could be, and I think that's important to bear in mind as we move forward. As far as this enhanced MCAF that's going to be presented to the Executive Board in a couple of weeks' time goes, the headlines are firstly that between Madingley, Mulch and Grange Road, mode shift from car to bus is virtually the same for option 6, where it's scored as 1%, and option 3A, where it's scored as 3%. I'll come back in a little while to ask about margin of error, but I mean essentially, to my mind, there's very little difference between those two numbers. And that's a good thing. That shows that an online option is not much different from an offline option in terms of the most important measure, which is will people actually use it. Now, other things are interesting and important, but they're somewhat irrelevant if people won't use the service. Journey time is interesting, but frankly, if it goes at 32 nanoseconds to get to the centre of town and nobody gets on it, it is of little value. But what we do see is that a fast commuter service has pretty much the same journey time, 21 minutes for option 6, 17 minutes for option 3A. I don't believe many people would pay their own money to differentiate between 21 and 17 minutes. Adrian, I can hear you chuntering in the background, and it's really kind of off-putting. Thank you. Yeah, it's just, sorry. Reliability is almost identical. It's quoted as 84 to 90% during peak hours for option 6, compared to 87 to 93% for option 3A. I mean, effectively there's no difference between those numbers. And of course we know that option 3 is much more expensive than option 6. And just to clarify what we mean by a fast commuter service, we're talking about something that runs essentially with these stops that are marked on the bottom: Cambourne, Scotland Farm, Madingley March, or one or both, West Cambridge site and Grange Road. And then another headline that comes out of it is that since the board made its decision to make option 3 the preferred route a year ago, the off-road journey time has gone up from 28 minutes, which it was in that original report, to 46 minutes round trip. And the on-road journey time has gone down from 64 minutes to, for the express service, 42 minutes. And I think this is important because you can't help wondering what difference that might have made to the executive board decision if they were presenting those data when they were originally considering this point. So those are the take-home messages that I have. In terms of the NCAP itself, there are 4 things which are bothersome, and I'll just go through these very, very quickly. I mean, the first is a pretty rather abstruse point, but the scoring system doesn't really make sense. It's a 5-point system which starts at very poor, which means the option makes no difference or makes it worse. So no difference or worse is 1. Then everything else is better. So poor means a marginal improvement. 3 means a substantial improvement. 4 means a large improvement. I'm not sure what the difference is between substantial and large. The question I ask myself quite often actually at home. Anyway, and then 5 says that it's an undisputable effect. But I mean, differentiating between these is rather mystifying. And as I went through the NCAF, I kept trying to refer back to the published scoring system. I just couldn't make sense of it. Anyway, that's a rather technical point. Then there are a couple of issues of redundancy. So punctuality, reliability, and accessibility are all effectively defined across a very tight-knit range of criteria. They all actually are scored identically across the 3 options, which is a bit of a telltale sign. And they are all related to how easy it is to get in, how reliable it is, how the relationship between the bus arriving in real life compared to the timetable and the probability of the bus arriving at approximately the same average time. I mean, there might be a difference, but you're talking nanotubules of difference, I think, between those concepts. And then constructability, risk, and disruption during construction and maintenance also appear to measure the same thing and, of course, yield the same scores. Then there are at least 10 areas where we believe the scoring is either irrational or is just biased. It's subjective and it's biased towards an off-road setting. And it's biased very often by taking into account something that's good for an off-road option and disregarding something that could also be good for an on-road option. And we've heard some of the discussions already go around. So journey ambience may be good on an off-road busway. It isn't in the dark, where you, in fact, it's much worse because you can't see anything. Journey ambience may be actually quite good if you're driving past stationary traffic and you can see that. That makes people feel quite good. They're getting somewhere everybody else isn't. You don't get that benefit on a busway. These are very subjective things, and it's really hard, it's difficult to read the NCAF and keep on seeing that these highly subjective areas are always scored in favour of an off-road route. Another example was in fact the point that Professor Jackson made, which is a very valid point. Of course, building a bus lane down Madingley Road will be disruptive for a few months or several months. We know that because there was great disruption outside the West Cambridge side. Building a brand new motorway bridge over the M11 is also going to be spectacularly disruptive to the M11. I would not personally want to drive on the M11 under an in-construction motorway bridge. And we see the same thing over and over again. We've discussed some of the issues around, for example, biodiversity. We've discussed it around landscape and visual impact. It is inconceivable that buses will go potentially at 100 miles an hour a few feet away from residents in villages like Coton or Hardwick and not have a noise impact that is higher than buses simply travelling on an existing road. It doesn't make any sense. And of course, we've repeatedly made the point about public consultation, that an off-road route was rejected strongly in a public consultation, an on-road was strongly supported, but that was actually has been taken out of the latest MCO. So really a lot of areas where there is considerable concern. And then lastly, there are quite a lot of black box numbers, not only in the MCAF, but throughout the report. And we're very concerned about black box numbers. A lot of us are scientists, have scientific background. We don't like black box numbers. We like to know how these numbers are generated. We want to know, for example, mode shift. How is that calculated? What are the inputs? What are the sensitivities? And what is the margin of error? If you're telling us that something is 12%, what does that really mean? What are the confidence intervals around those numbers so that we can make a fair judgment? And it won't come as a great surprise that just a really, because we haven't had this very long, a really quick back of the envelope attempt at scoring it, we come up with a very different set of numbers. They're highly subjective, but what they illustrate is that you can look at it one way. If you're particularly leaning towards an off-road, you can score it at 91, and if you're particularly not that keen on an off-road scheme, you can score it at 81, some 17 points behind option 6. I think there's a real danger with these things that they're given absolute numbers, they're put in the public domain, but we don't have margins of error, sensitivity analysis around them, and we haven't had a discussion which tries to achieve a consensus. So my conclusion is, as before, the NCAF score is somewhat academic because the officers are going to recommend further appraisal of option 6 anyway, so it doesn't really necessarily matter what comes up. But the score is there, it's in the public domain, it's available, and it's going to be used as evidence for future decision making, and that's a real worry. The process and the scoring seriously undermine public confidence in the impartiality of this whole process. I'm really genuinely concerned that what is being done is being led by people who are absolutely committed to an off-road solution and are simply bending data to get the answer that they want. And I can't help asking, are we going to get a fair decision at the end of this process? So just to, I'll put the resolutions back. Basically, there are two. So the one I read out, and then a resolution that says that we do not consider that the option 6 has been fairly presented in the documentation, and it is not as we intended. It has not been optimised. One important example is that there's no mention in the pack that's just come out of the off-road cycle provision. It's been mentioned earlier that cycle provision is not going to be improved, and that's because it's simply been left out of option 6. So I really think it's very important that we have an accurately presented and optimised option 6.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the panel?
It's actually a general point, Chairman, which refers to, I think, everything that we've heard tonight. And it's covered in the third line of Gabriel's Resolution 4, in which he refers to having insufficient time to input into this. The documents are published a very short space of time before these meetings. And I will take up with the Chairman of the Executive Board, I think, to ask people to undertake and to analyse all the documents that are provided in such a short space of time is unreasonable, and we ought to be asking for longer.
Does anybody need any more information before resolution 5 on why the technical group does not consider option 6 to have been fairly presented? So I didn't think that was really well explained. You happy? Okay. Okay, shall we start with resolution 4? Can we take a vote on that one, please? And resolution 5. Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay. Finally, I think Marcus has gone, but Rod, can you present, please, resolution 7?
Chair, very quickly, just conscious of time. I think resolution 7 is about us as a LLF asking the board before going to public consultation, and I think we welcome public consultation, that actually that should be done based on full information, and in particular the outcome of the Rapid Mass Transport Strategic Options paper in November and the other 2 items that I identified. So I think what we're proposing is we say that the board only seeks to go out to consultation once it has received that analysis and has incorporated that analysis in the existing data set that they have.
Thank you. Does anyone have a comment on that?
Thank you. Chair, I find myself actually unable to support this because this would then eliminate the possibility of any examination of a route to the north of the A428. And therefore, unless the off-road bus option is removed, I'm afraid I cannot support this motion.
Yeah, I can't really understand what you're saying there, Brendan.
Well,
sorry.
We've got here that showed overwhelmingly the public rejected the off-road bus option. I still feel that a route for buses running to the north of the A428 is, although so far ruled out by the Executive Board, should be considered at a later time, and therefore for us now to rule that out as a future option, I think is wrong.
And actually, what you're saying is consistent with Rod's earlier resolution, isn't it? That
I understand, I think I understand what my colleague's saying. I think you need to read the sentence in full, though, which is as contemplated by option 3A. So it's a very specific off-road proposition. Only in relation to 3A. Because actually, I think what the theme of this resolution is basically saying to the board, we're going to go through a very expensive public consultation, and actually the public is not being given a full set of information in terms of the options they're being asked to comment on. And actually, if you don't do that, then the results you're going to get back are going to be flawed. So what we're saying is the board should only go out to consultation once they have full information.
So could Pam quickly read this, because Helen's computer's about to go to sleep.
yeah, we've all got low battery now, I think. Everybody ready to go to a vote? Okay, can we vote on this?
Could I just make a comment? For the previous set, if we just go back to the previous, should it not read the public who were consulted showed overwhelmingly that the public who had been consulted rejected the off-road bus option, in that I believe that not all of the public were consulted, and that implies that it was probably broader than the consultation actually was.
I think that's more worthy clarification.
Yeah.
But I'll make sure
Hang on,
that
hang on. The public were consulted. What are you saying?
I think it's about the consultation, in that consultation.
No, but there was a public consultation which was advertised all over Cambridge, and there were thousands of replies. It's a spurious comment.
Your
The
colleague
public was
agrees.
consulted. Well, no, you've got to be, this guy's intervening with a wrong point.
If they didn't come at the time and participate in the consultation, that's
decision.
nobody's fault. We've been attending all the
And I'm
consultations.
sorry. No,
I think it's a point on the conclusion, actually, not about the public consultation, it's about the conclusion. And given the timing of where we are in terms of the meeting, I have no problem outside the meeting just making that clear, that it's those people who responded to the public consultation. I think that was the point which was being made.
Okay, and then finally, just to torture you some more, we've got one final resolution from Bridget.
Extremely quick. So we're about to go out to a next round of consultation. It's really important that right questions are asked in order to ensure that it's a balanced and accurate consultation and of real value. I'm therefore proposing that we request that the LLF be included in the consultation, be allowed to input into it, review, approve and reject material as part of that consultation. Yeah, the question, so that we have input. So, I think in the original consultation there was ambiguous questions, so that...
No, I understand.
Yeah.
The wording of the resolution needs to make clear that it's our input to the design.
Into the design of the consultation.
So hang on, so regarding content, oh, it's gone.
I'll redraft.
Okay, redraft.
Okay. Yep.
Okay,
So
let's
those
go to
say yes.